Digital clock mounted above the dispatch floor blinked 2:17 a.m. The red numbers reflected faintly against the glass walls, casting thin shadows across the room. Night shifts always distorted time, stretching minutes into something heavier, slower. At this hour, even blinking felt loud. Sarah Mitchell sat upright at her console, headset snug against her ears, fingers resting lightly on the keyboard. She had learned not to slouch. Fatigue crept in faster when you gave it permission. The 911 Communications Center occupied the second floor of the county emergency building, a windowless space designed to eliminate distraction. Rows of workstations faced inward, each surrounded by tall gray panels that dulled sound and swallowed light. Fluorescent fixtures hummed overhead, their glow flat and unkind. There was never true silence here. Computers whispered, radios murmured, air vents exhaled in slow mechanical breaths. Tonight, though, something about the sound felt wrong, unsteady. Sarah tried to ignore the feeling and reach for her coffee. It had been hot once. Now it was just brown and bitter, but she drank it anyway. Routine mattered more than taste. She had been a dispatcher for nearly 5 years. She had guided people through childbirth, talked teenagers down from bridges, listened as entire homes disappeared into fire. She had learned how to stay calm while strangers shattered on the other end of the line. Still, her stomach tightened. Her monitor displayed no active calls. Quiet nights were supposed to be a blessing. Sarah glanced around. Most of the night crew looked half asleep, faces washed pale under the lights. One operator leaned back with his eyes closed, headset still on. Another typed lazily, updating a report from earlier in the evening. Everything was normal. That was what bothered her. The air felt thick, as if the room was waiting. She shifted in her chair, rolled her neck once, and focused on her screen. Then beep. The incoming call tone cut through the room like a blade. Her console flashed red. Sarah's hand moved automatically, muscle memory taking over. She clicked accept. 911. What's your emergency? Her voice was even, calm, practiced. Only silence answered her. No crying, no shouting, no background noise. Just nothing. Sarah waited. Dispatch protocol required at least 10 seconds before repeating the greeting. Abandoned calls happened all the time, pocket dials, drop signals, misclicks. But this silence felt intentional. At the 7-second mark, she heard it, breathing. Slow and close, like the caller's mouth was pressed directly against the phone. Each inhale sounded wet, labored, deliberate. Sarah straightened. Hello? She said gently. This is 911. I can hear you. Are you in danger? The breathing paused. For a moment, there was nothing but faint static. Then a voice whispered, so softly it barely registered as sound. He's standing behind me. Sarah's fingers tightened against the edge of the desk. Okay, she said, keeping her tone steady. I need you to stay as calm as possible. Can you tell me your location? The line crackled. The breathing returned faster now. No, the caller whispered. He doesn't like that. A chill crawled up Sarah's spine. Who is he? She asked. Is someone threatening you right now? Silence. Sarah leaned closer to her monitor, eyes scanning the system. The call trace hadn't locked yet. No address, no number. Listen to me, she said. Help is available, but I need to know where you are. The caller exhaled slowly. Then, almost conversationally, they said, he smiles when you ask questions. Sarah swallowed. Can you see him? She asked. Another pause. Yes. Static flared, sharp and sudden. And now, the voice continued, he sees you too. The line went dead. The call timer froze at 0:42. Sarah stared at her screen, waiting for the automatic disconnect tone. It didn't come. After 3 seconds, the system finally dropped the call on its own. She exhaled, realizing she had been holding her breath. Her heart thudded hard in her chest. She tagged the incident as an abandoned call with verbal contact, fingers moving quickly, professionally, but her hands trembled slightly as she typed. Across the room, a radio crackled to life. Unit 12 responding to a possible disturbance, a dispatcher's voice announced. Caller hung up. Unknown situation. Sarah looked back at her screen. The call ID still glowed faintly, like a bruise that hadn't faded yet. She told herself it was just another frightened caller. A prank. Someone high. Someone imagining things. She told herself that all the time. Still, when she removed her headset for a moment, she could have sworn she heard breathing behind her. And when the clock blinked forward to 2:18 a.m., the room felt a little colder. The call should have faded into routine. Most did. Sarah Mitchell told herself that as she stared at her monitor, watching the last remnants of the abandoned call record linger on the screen. The system always took a few seconds to refresh. Normally, she didn't notice. Tonight, she did. The call ID glowed a dull gray, refusing to disappear immediately. The timer remained frozen at 0:42, like the system itself had hesitated before letting go. Sarah shook her head and forced her attention elsewhere. She logged the call carefully, selecting the appropriate codes. Unknown trouble. Caller disconnected. Verbal contact made. She added a brief note. Caller reported unknown male presence. Whispered speech. No location provided. It felt insufficient. Her supervisor, Mark Ellison, paced slowly behind the row of consoles, coffee in one hand, radio clipped to his belt. He stopped briefly behind her station. Everything okay? He asked casually. Sarah nodded. Yeah, just a weird hang-up. Mark grunted. Always is, after midnight. He moved on. Sarah watched him go, then glanced back at the time. 2:24 a.m. She tried to settle into the rhythm of the night. Answer a few routine calls. Assist another dispatcher with a transfer. Update reports. Still, her mind kept circling back to the whisper. He's standing behind me. She had heard fear before. Terror, hysteria, panic. That voice hadn't carried any of it. It had sounded certain. At 2:31 a.m., curiosity finally won. Sarah opened the abandoned call log. Hundreds of entries filled the screen, each stamped with dates, times, durations. She filtered by time window. 2 a.m., 3 a.m. The list shortened. She frowned. There were more than she expected. She opened the most recent entry, the call she had just taken. The system assigned it a reference number. 3,411. She clicked backward. 3,410 2 nights ago. 3,408 3 nights before that. 3,403 same time window. 3,399, exactly 2:16 a.m. Her pulse quickened. She opened one at random. Duration 0:38. Notes, breathing heard. Caller whispered. Disconnected. Another. Duration 0:44. Notes, caller refused to provide location. Mentioned someone watching. Another. Duration 0:41. Notes. Unresponsive after verbal contact. Sarah leaned back slightly, eyes scanning the screen. They were all short, all under a minute, all between 2:10 and 2:40 a.m., and every single one ended the same way. Disconnected. Her headset crackled softly as a routine call came in. She answered, handled it, transferred it, muscle memory carrying her through while her mind stayed elsewhere. When she returned to the log, she scrolled further back. The pattern didn't stop. Weeks, months. Her fingers paused. One entry caught her eye. Date. 7 months earlier. Time, 2:19 a.m. Duration, 0:42. The same length. She opened it. The notes were more detailed this time. Caller whispered continuously. Reported male presence behind them. When asked for location, caller stated, "He doesn't want you to know." Call ended abruptly. Sarah's throat tightened. She clicked the audio playback icon. The system hesitated, then loaded. Static filled her headset, then breathing. Her skin prickled instantly. It was the same slow, deliberate inhale. the same closeness to the microphone. Even the rhythm matched. She listened as the dispatcher from 7 months ago asked questions. Different voice, different tone, same response. "He's standing behind me." Sarah pulled the headset away from her ear and swallowed hard. "That's not possible," she murmured. Voices didn't repeat like that. Not exactly. Not across different people, different days, different years. She closed the playback window. Her screen flickered. Then a new call appeared in her queue. "Incoming call, unknown number?" The timestamp read 2:33 am. Her chest tightened. She accepted the call. 911. "What's your emergency?" The silence on the line felt heavier this time. Then, softly, "I was hoping you'd answer again." Sarah froze. The voice was calm, familiar. "Sir or ma'am," she said carefully, "I need you to tell me where you're calling from." The caller chuckled a low, humorless sound. "You're very good at pretending this is normal," the voice said. The others weren't. Sarah's heart pounded. "Who are the others?" she asked. The line crackled. "I already told them," the caller whispered. "He doesn't like questions." Her screen updated suddenly. "Location ping received." An address appeared. Sarah's eyes widened. The address was grayed out, marked inactive. Condemned. She recognized it instantly. A house on Ridgewood Lane. She remembered the case of fatal fire 5 years ago. Electrical malfunction. Entire structure lost. No one had lived there since. "Listen to me," Sarah said, her voice tight. "That address is unoccupied. Are you somewhere else right now?" The caller sighed. "It still looks the same," they said. "The walls, the hallway, the smell." Sarah's blood ran cold. "Describe the room you're in," she said quietly. There was a pause. Then, "Yellow paint," the caller whispered, "peeling near the door. A crack in the ceiling shaped like a river. You have a stain like that above your desk, too." Sarah's breath hitched. Her eyes flicked upward instinctively. The ceiling above her station bore a long, uneven crack, something she had never consciously noticed before. The caller breathed in. "He's closer now," they said. "You shouldn't have looked." The line filled with static. Sarah leaned forward, heart racing. "Stay with me," she said. "Help is on the way." The caller's voice softened. "He sees you now." The call disconnected. The room felt suddenly too quiet. Across the floor, another dispatcher looked up, frowning. "Did you hear that?" he asked. Sarah swallowed. "Hear what?" He shook his head. "Never mind." Sarah stared at her screen. The abandoned call log updated automatically. Abandoned call log 3412, time 2:34 a.m. Duration 042, the same length, again. And as she sat there staring at the number, Sarah realized something that made her blood turn cold. Every one of these calls had been answered by a dispatcher sitting exactly where she was now. Sarah didn't sleep after her shift ended. She lay awake in her apartment, staring at the faint glow of her phone on the bedside table, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic outside. Every small noise felt amplified, as though the night itself was leaning closer to listen. Her dreams, when they came in brief flashes, were filled with breathing. Slow, close, patient. By the time morning light filtered through the blinds, she had already decided what she needed to do. She had to listen again. The communications center was brighter during the day, busier, louder. Day shift chatter filled the room, radios constantly alive with traffic stops, accidents, domestic disputes. It felt safer, or at least it pretended to be. Sarah logged in early, her badge granting access before her scheduled time. She kept her head down, nodding to coworkers, not trusting her voice yet. She navigated straight to the archived audio database. Dispatchers weren't supposed to replay old calls without cause, but curiosity wasn't against policy, and fear, she reasoned, was cause enough. She filtered the logs. Criteria: abandoned calls, time window 2 o'clock, 3 a.m., notes containing breathing, whisper, unknown male. The results populated instantly. Too many. Sarah clicked on the oldest one in the list. Date, August 14th, 2009. Time, 2:21 a.m. Dispatcher, Emily Carter. Duration, 0:42. Her chest tightened. She pressed play. Static filled her headset. Then breathing. The sound crawled into her ears, identical to the call she'd heard the night before. Not similar identical. The same pauses, the same uneven rhythm, like the caller was carefully controlling each breath. Emily Carter's voice came through next. Younger, nervous. 911. What's your emergency? Silence. Then the whisper. He's standing behind me. Sarah's fingers went cold. She stopped the playback. No, she whispered to herself. No, that's not possible. She reopened the file, listened again. The same voice. She opened another call. Different dispatcher. Different year. Same breathing. Same whisper. By the fourth recording, her hands were trembling. People's voices changed over time. Recordings degraded, accents varied. But this was a perfect repetition, as if the same moment had been copied and pasted across years. She pulled up the dispatcher profiles. Emily Carter. Status, deceased. Sarah blinked. Cause of death, suicide. Location, communications center restroom. Year, 2011. Her stomach twisted. She opened another. Dispatcher, Mark Reynolds. Status, deceased. Cause of death, heart attack during night shift. Another. Laura Nguyen. Status, resigned psychological distress. Notes, clear desk without notice. Sarah leaned back in her chair, breathing shallowly. She hadn't noticed it before, but there was a pattern here too. Every dispatcher who had answered multiple calls from this cluster was either gone or broken. Her screen flickered. A system notification appeared briefly, then vanished. She frowned and checked her queue. Empty. She reached up to remove her headset and froze. Breathing filled her ears. Live, not a recording. Her screen lit up red. Incoming call, unknown number. The timestamp read 2:18 a.m. That wasn't possible. It was 11:42 in the morning. Her pulse hammered as she clicked accept. 911, she said, forcing her voice steady. What's your emergency? Silence. Then the whisper. You weren't supposed to listen to those. Sarah's throat went dry. Who is this? She asked. The breathing grew louder. Emily asked the same thing, the caller said softly. She cried after. A chill slid down Sarah's spine. How do you know her name? Sarah demanded. The caller chuckled. She stayed on the line, the voice said. That's why he kept her. Sarah's screen flickered again. A waveform appeared, not just the caller's voice, but something else beneath it. Another voice. Her own. Faint, delayed, repeating her words. 911. What's your emergency? Sarah yanked the headset off her ears, heart racing. The sound continued. She stared at the headset in her hands. It was still plugged in, still active. Slowly, she lifted it back to her ear. Sarah, the caller whispered. Her breath caught. No one told you my name, she said. The line crackled. You tell us everything, the voice replied. Every night, every call. Sarah's eyes darted around the room. Day shift bustled around her, oblivious. Laughter, phones ringing, life going on as normal. Look at your reflection, the caller said gently. Against her better judgment, Sarah glanced at the darkened edge of her monitor. For just a second, she thought she saw someone standing behind her chair, tall, still, unmoving. She spun around. Nothing. When she turned back, the call had ended. Her screen updated automatically. Abandoned call log number 3413. Time, 2:18 a.m. Duration, 0:42. The same number. Again. Sarah sat frozen, staring at the screen. Then a realization struck her so hard it made her dizzy. These calls weren't coming from the past. They weren't echoes. They were still happening. And somewhere in some place she couldn't see, the dead were still holding their phones. Still whispering. Still waiting for someone to stay on the line. Sarah tried not to answer the next call. When the incoming tone chimed, sharp and familiar, her hand hovered over the mouse instead of clicking accept immediately. For the first time since she'd become a dispatcher, instinct told her to wait. The console flashed red. Incoming call, unknown number? Her heartbeat thudded in her ears. Across the floor, phones rang. Operators spoke calmly into headsets. Keyboards clacked. No one else seemed disturbed. No one else noticed the way the air around her station felt heavier, denser, like it was pressing in from all sides. Sarah! Her supervisor's voice came from behind her. She flinched. Mark Ellison stood there, arms crossed loosely, watching her screen. You gonna grab that? He asked. Sarah forced herself to breathe. She nodded, fingers stiff, and clicked accept. 911, she said, her voice tight. What's your emergency? Silence. Then the breathing. It was closer than ever, loud enough that she could hear moisture in the caller's lungs, each inhale dragging through something thick and wet. Please don't hang up, the caller whispered. Sarah swallowed. I need you to tell me where you are, she said. Help can't reach you if you don't give me a location. The breathing stuttered. If you hang up, the voice said slowly, he takes us. A cold wave washed over her. Who takes you? She asked. The line crackled. The one who answers first, the caller replied. The one who listens. Sarah's screen flickered violently. For a split second, the call duration counter vanished. Then it reappeared. 042. Her chest tightened. Stay with me, she said. I'm here to help you. The caller exhaled shakily. That's what Emily said, they whispered. And Mark, and the others. Sarah's fingers curled into her palm. You said Mark? She asked. Yes, the caller replied. He sat where you sit now. Sarah's gaze flicked instinctively to her supervisor. Mark was still standing behind her, watching. Sir or ma'am, Sarah said carefully, my supervisor is standing right here. The caller laughed, a soft, broken sound. He doesn't remember yet, the voice said. Not until it's his turn again. Mark leaned closer. Everything okay? He asked. Sarah nodded automatically, afraid of what would happen if she spoke. The breathing on the line deepened. He's closer now, the caller whispered. You shouldn't have said that. Static exploded through the headset. Sarah gasped as the sound surged, then dropped suddenly into silence. She stared at the screen. The call was still connected. The waveform showed no audio input, but the timer continued to run. 043, 044, 045. Calls weren't supposed to do that. They ended when the caller disconnected, when the dispatcher hung up, or when the system timed out. This one did none of those. Mark, Sarah said quietly, this call isn't disconnecting. He frowned and leaned in, peering at her screen. That's strange, he muttered. End it manually. Sarah clicked disconnect. Nothing happened. The timer kept climbing. Try again, Mark said. She did. Still nothing. The line stayed open. The breathing returned suddenly, sharp and violent. He doesn't like being ignored, the caller hissed. Sarah yanked the headset off, heart pounding. The sound didn't stop. It poured out of the earpieces anyway, faint but unmistakable. Mark's expression shifted. You hearing that? He asked. Sarah nodded. Reset the console, he said quickly. She complied, hands shaking. The screen went black, then rebooted. Her login screen appeared. Before she could enter her credentials, the call reconnected automatically. The breathing resumed. The timer reset to 042. Sarah felt something inside her break. This isn't possible, Mark whispered. The caller spoke again, voice calm, almost kind. We told you, they said. The line doesn't close. Sarah's vision blurred. What happens if I stay? She asked hoarsely. A pause. Then, you listen, the caller said. He feeds. Mark stepped back slowly, face pale. This is above our pay grade, he muttered. I'm escalating this. He turned and walked toward the supervisor's office. The moment he left, the caller's breathing changed. Satisfied. You're alone now, the voice said. That's when he comes closer. Sarah stared at the empty space behind her chair. She didn't turn around. Why me? She whispered. The caller exhaled softly. Because you stay on the line. The call finally disconnected. Not with a tone, not with a click. It simply stopped existing. The room felt suddenly lighter. Too light. Mark never came back. When Sarah checked the system logs later, she found no record of him leaving her station. No escalation, no supervisor note. And under abandoned call log number 3414, one line had been added automatically. Do not hang up. The next call came without a sound. No beep, no alert tone. One moment Sarah's screen was empty. The next, it wasn't. Connected active line, no number. No timestamp. No duration. Just a thin green line pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat. Sarah's throat tightened. 911, she said carefully, though she knew better by now. What's your emergency? The breathing was different this time. Deeper, slower, older. It sounded like air passing through something hollow. He wants you to see him, the caller whispered. Sarah closed her eyes, briefly. No, she said. You've taken enough. The caller let out a soft, humorless laugh. We don't get to choose, they replied. We never did. Sarah glanced around the dispatch floor. Day shift was still busy, voices overlapping, radios crackling, yet none of it seemed to touch her. Her station felt isolated, like it existed a few feet out of sync with reality. Who is he? Sarah asked. The breathing paused. When the caller spoke again, their voice trembled. He doesn't have a face, they said. Not really. Sarah's fingers curled slowly against the desk. Describe him. The line crackled. He stands where the light ends, the caller whispered. Right at the edge. You can never see him clearly, just enough to know he's there. Sarah felt a cold pressure settle between her shoulder blades. Does he speak? She asked. The caller inhaled sharply. No, they said. He listens. A chill crept down her spine. He leans in when we talk, the voice continued, like he's trying to remember what being human felt like. Sarah swallowed. What does he want? The breathing grew heavier. Us, the caller replied. And you. The fluorescent lights above Sarah's station flickered. For a split second, the hum in the room dropped away completely, like someone had pressed mute on the world. Then it returned. He comes when we're alone, the caller said. When the phone is the only thing connecting us to someone else. Sarah's gaze drifted to the reflection in her monitor. The space behind her chair looked darker than it should have. Not shadowed. Absent. What happens to the callers? She asked quietly. The breathing stuttered. We never hang up, the voice said. We can't. Sarah's chest tightened. Why not? Because if we do, the caller whispered, he answers instead. A soft sound filled the line. Not breathing. Footsteps. Slow, measured. Approaching. Sarah's pulse raced. Where are you right now? She demanded. The caller exhaled shakily. Standing, they said, just behind you. The temperature around Sarah dropped suddenly, her skin prickling, as if the air itself had turned sharp. Don't turn around, the caller pleaded. He likes that. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut. What does he do? She asked. The caller hesitated. When the line stays open, they whispered, he feeds on the space between words, on the silence, on the waiting. The lights flickered again, longer this time. Sarah's screen distorted, the text stretching and blurring. In the reflection, something moved. Not a figure. A presence. Tall. Still. As if it had always been there. Her breath caught. He's smiling, the caller said softly. Sarah shook her head. No, she whispered. No, you're not real. The caller's voice broke. That's what we said too. The footsteps stopped. The breathing on the line ceased. For a moment there was only silence. Then a new sound reached her ears, her own breathing, echoing back through the headset. Delayed. Wrong. He knows your voice now, the caller whispered. That's how it starts. Sarah felt a cold weight settle over her shoulders, like someone resting their hands there. She couldn't move. Tell me how to stop him, she said, barely able to breathe. The caller inhaled slowly. You don't, they said. You stay. The call ended. The green line on her screen faded. Her reflection returned to normal. The dispatch floor buzzed back into focus. Laughter, radios, life. Sarah sat frozen, hands gripping the edge of her desk. Then slowly she noticed something new on her screen. A system message. Active anchor detected. She didn't know what it meant. But deep down, she already did. Because when the next call came in, it didn't ring. It simply waited. And somewhere just behind her, something waited too. Sarah didn't clock out. She didn't remember deciding to stay. One moment, the dispatch floor was buzzing with the dull noise of day shift. The next, the room felt hollow, like sound had learned how to avoid her. Her console was still active. No calls in queue. No alerts. Yet the green line pulsed faintly at the bottom of her screen. Waiting. She stood slowly, chairs scraping softly against the floor, and looked around. Operators sat at their stations, laughing, arguing about lunch, complaining about overtime. None of them looked at her. Mark, she called. No response. She walked toward the supervisor's office. The door was open. The room was empty. No chair, no desk, no nameplate, as if it had never existed. Her badge suddenly felt heavy around her neck. She glanced down. The plastic reflected the overhead light, and for just a second, the name printed on it wasn't hers. It read, Active Dispatcher Line Anchor. Sarah stepped back, heart racing. No, she whispered. I'm still here. The screen chimed softly. Not a ring, a request. Incoming call transfer failed. She returned to her station slowly, dread settling deep in her chest. Her hands shook as she clicked accept. 911, she said. What's your emergency? A child's voice answered. Small, trembling. Please, the child whispered. Don't hang up. Sarah's eyes filled instantly. I won't, she said. I promise. Tell me where you are. The child sniffed. He's here, they said. He stands in the doorway. Sarah closed her eyes. I need you to look at me, the child continued softly. I need to know you're real. I am, Sarah said. I'm right here. The breathing began. Not the child's. Something deeper. Slower. The lights above Sarah flickered, dimming until the edges of the room dissolved into shadow. The other operators faded, their voices stretching, warping, then vanishing completely. The room was empty now. Just Sarah. Just the call. He doesn't like it when you lie, the child whispered. I'm not lying, Sarah said. I won't leave you. The breathing grew closer. He feeds when the line stays open, the child said. But he starves when someone chooses to stay. Sarah swallowed hard. Is that why you're still here? She asked. The child was quiet for a long moment. Yes, they said. We were alone. Sarah felt tears spill down her cheeks. Then you're not anymore, she whispered. The breathing stopped. For the first time since the calls began, the silence felt different. Empty. The green line on her screen trembled. A shape formed in the reflection of her monitor. Tall, unmoving, featureless, standing just behind her. Her heart pounded, but she didn't turn around. I know what you are, she said quietly. The thing behind her leaned closer. I know you need unanswered calls, Sarah continued. I know you live in the space between fear and silence. The breathing returned angry now. But I won't give you that space anymore, she said. I'm staying. The child's voice softened. He can't take us if you stay, they whispered. Sarah nodded, tears falling freely. I'll stay, she said, as long as it takes. The breathing shattered into static. The reflection distorted. The shape recoiled, not retreating but thinning, unraveling, like smoke pulled apart by light. The green line on her screen dimmed. Then, finally, click, the call ended. Not abruptly, gently. The screen went blank. The lights returned. The dispatch floor filled with sound again. But Sarah didn't sit down. She looked at her hands. They were faint, translucent. Her badge slid from her neck and hit the floor. She understood then. She had crossed the line. Years later, the communications center would still log strange calls. Always between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m. Always short, always filled with breathing. But something had changed. Now sometimes when a terrified caller whispered, "Please don't hang up," a calm voice would answer. "I'm here," it would say. "You're not alone." And the line would stay open. The red digital clock blinked, 2:17 a.m. A new dispatcher adjusted her headset and clicked accept. 911, what's your emergency? On the other end of the line, Sarah smiled unseen, unheard, except for a whisper. He's not behind you anymore, she said softly. But the line stayed open.